You're listening to the Go Lightly Martial Hour on freedomtalkradio.net.
Here we are, back again, show 81. Not on air live, on air recording.
Just for a change.
Oh, just for a change, yes, trying to... anyway, it's been an interesting week, experimenting all over the place. Looks like I have it under control, kind of. Now, all right, this morning, Ya's already been down looking at what's going on in Nehemiah. He wants to talk about that and the odd things that have been happening with his trying to download. Those who've been with us for a while know that all the technical difficulties that God always seems to have. How about the time that you tried to print a book, and how many printers did you end up going through? 7. Unbelievable.
New ones.
Yeah. Now, these are the obstacles, are they not, that have been constantly put in your way?
Absolutely. It goes back for a very, very, very long time. That it's only as I grew older I started to realise that there was a spirit that would cause me to do things that I didn't want to do, or there was a spirit that was demonic that would interfere with things that I had to do after I'd been told to do it by an angel.
Yes.
Right. And I learnt by, I've mentioned before, the women in my life, 3 wives before my little angel finally popped up. To use them as a negative Geiger counter. Put it simply, if she said to turn left, I'd turn right. Or if I said, let's go left, she'd say go right. So this is a negative Geiger counter, and I've used that all the way through on my experiences with these women, knowing that my perfect woman is out there somewhere, but I had to go through these demons first, because they did contribute greatly to the genetics. For example, no one in their right mind would marry the woman I married when I was the same age in weeks, 1162.6 weeks. Now get your head around this. That's the width of the antechamber of the Great Pyramid. All right, that's 116.26 pyramid inches. But if you convert that to years, it is 22.28. So that's how old I was when I married this demon. Right? I didn't want to do it, but I was told as a boy where she was lived and who it would be. Right? In fact, where I met her in a cafe after a dance in Lithgow, which had a reputation of being a Sodom and Gomorrah type place, and she was the queen of Sodom. I went there years later with a GPS, and I measured the height of the door step into this cafe where we were. My brother actually put it with me. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I avoided it like the plague. But my brother actually sat her down beside me because there was a vacant seat. And the height above sea level is 3168 feet. So there's got your Lord Jesus Christ again, you see. Well, I didn't know that at the time. And this is the kind of things I've learned over the years by studying the mathematics and geometry and basically looking for things that the Jews have have taken out of circulation. Gematria was actually one of my efforts was to revive the idea of gematria in the ancient languages when the net first started to become available to myself. And then after a while, it started to take off. Well, people thought, hello, and they started digging. And all sorts of people would come up with information that is now floating on the internet quite freely available. Now the number 22.28 years old is the height of the highest mountain in Australia, Mount Kosciuszko. So I had to find Mary Magdalene. Now, by the time I got through with wife number 2, this is a woman that wanted to put me in a mental institution forever. You can't get out, right? There's certain criteria in order to get out. I spoke to one man and had been in there for 35 years. Another guy from Port Alberni, 24 years, right? Because he had no family, he had nowhere to go to, he had nowhere to live, and this is one of the criteria. Well, I just happened to have all those things that and an income because I had a small pension at that time. So I got out by the skin of my teeth by really seducing the psychiatrist, a big, huge woman, a Jewish lady. She must have weighed 500 pounds. And I'd speak to her every day, and of course the idea was to keep me in there, but she became my greatest advocate because I complimented her every time I walked in the door. Right? What's that lovely perfume you're wearing? What have you done to your hair today? What's a lovely dress you're wearing? And blah, blah, blah. And being a Jewess, she fell for it. Right? I thought she was revolting. So I lied.
And you hate perfume. It gives you
I
a
hate
headache.
perfume. Right? It makes me allergic. Right? So this is the kind of thing I had to do. So again, she was a negative Geiger counter. I said to her, look, I can prove who I am quite easily. Let's go down to the library and we get Burke's Peerage and you'll see my ancient ancestor and the children he had and the Golightly name. That's where it originated. So there's only one Golightly name. It's a name invented by the king to go lightly, keep away from the bloody throne. The same as James VI, who became James I of England, told his sons, don't ever become king. Right? But Charles did the wrong thing. And what happened with Charles? Charles is beheaded. The date he's beheaded is the number which is the same as the diagonal of the completed Great Pyramid. So again, I have to think this man died for Christ because he wrote a very lovely letter before he died the next morning. And the number is 107726 or 25, which is the difference in time when you consider Australia as the head of England between his beheading and my birth. Right? So the number as feet is 1077.25 feet, which is diagonal of the Great Pyramid with a completed capstone in place, because the base of the cap of the pyramid has been reduced by 286.1 inches. 28.61 is my maths body index number. So I'm a big man, right? 222 pounds. Hello. How many times is the word truth found in the Bible? 222 times. What about wisdom? 222 times. Right? So I weigh 222 pounds. Always have done. Right? No matter what I do, it can't change the weight. Now my height, 74 inches is rounded now because I've been, as you get older you shrink. I was actually 6'3" at one stage. But with back operations and everything else I've had to endure, I'm now down to just over 74 inches, which is the gematria for Jesus in English.
Yes.
Right? It's also Joshua, which is the Hebrew name for Jesus. And it goes on. So after a while you start to scratch your head. So how perfect is it? Well, if you're going to build a house and you're going to build it on the numbers of yourself, what would you do? You'd make the house a 22.22 inches wide, maybe, and you make the height of the ceilings 7.4 metres or 7.4 feet or something like that, the same number again, or you'd make the length of it 31.68 feet. Now, ironically, I helped my nephew finish off his house in a little town called Lau in Victoria. A place you don't want to go to. It's the end of the Dandenong Ranges. It's a dry shit house of a place, but he had a farm there. 55.5 acres. Hello, there's a Jesus number again, Christ number. So I said to him, I said, look, whatever you do, because you're part of me, you'll do divine things. You won't even know it. Right. So I said, like your house, if you measure it, you'll find it's got all the sacred numbers in it. Ah, you bullshit, you silly old bastard, he'd say to me. Well, one night, while I was down there, we're in this trailer, and he gets up and he sneaks outside with a tape measure. Right? I see him walk up the hill with a light, little flashlight, and he's starting to measure the house. It was 22.22 feet wide and 31.68 feet long. And he come back and wake me up. He said, "You're right, Uncle." Of course I'm bloody right. And I said, "Now, when you go overseas," because he's going to do so, you're going to go overseas. I said, "Whatever you do, don't get into any criminal activity." So he met this girl going on a plane to Europe, and she looked like Cindy Crawford. Right? He fell madly in love. So he's travelling around all over Europe with her, and he was there for the solar eclipse of 1999. I told him what it was going to be, so he went to the place that was the highest in the arc of the solar eclipse, and he said, "Oh, this is great." So then he decides he's going to come back, sell everything up, and go back and get married. Right? However, having the morals of his father, he decides to go to the brothels through Amsterdam, and they drug him up, they fill him up with drugs, and next thing he's flying back in Australia with drugs. Right? So the cops stop him. Why did the cops stop him? Because his name was Stephen Andrew Marshall, which is the Interpol's most wanted. Right? And he told me, they said that I would have got away with it, only they had this name, Interpol's most wanted. I said, "That's you, moron." You got 5 years for that. Of course, the girlfriend, the love of his life, she's gone. She marries a German or something, better off for her.
Oh, totally. Lucky escape.
Okay, now we go down to Mount Kosciuszko. 22 is my age when I get married. 2228. That's how high it is in metres. So then you draw a line from that to a line from, you make it a distance in nautical miles of the height of it in feet. Right? So you take the 2228, convert it to feet. What was it, 73.9 or 79.3, one or the other. And you measure that in miles from that mountain. You think this is lovely. You draw an arc around the earth where it crosses, and it crosses through the Mediterranean, up down through the Red Sea, where we went to, incidentally. And then you take another line, which is this time you do it in miles. And it is at the bottom of the Red Sea, at the opening of the Red Sea, with these Straits of Hormuz. The distance apart are 3050 kilometres. The lowest one is 8674 kilometres from the North Pole. The highest one, which is up near the pyramid, it is 5624 kilometres from the North Pole. You think, so what? Well, if you look at your Strong's Concordance, the difference between the total 8674 words in Hebrew and the total in Greek in the dictionary is 5624. The difference is 3050, which is jar in Hebrew, which has been removed from the New Testament because they don't want to let you know the jar is coming back. They've taken it, it's only found once in the Old Testament. It's in Psalms. Right? So what is it? So the distance from the key mountain in Australia around the world in nautical miles or in statute miles gives you the two numbers and a line from the North Pole, which is 3050 apart, and they are both the same key numbers, 8674 and 5624. Now that is proving absolutely 100% slam dunk that everything's made in the name of Jesus, because Jesus is the age. I married this harlot from Lithgow, and I told you even yesterday, I spoke about it again, this woman is so evil a bastard. I mean, talk about Lucifer's choice. Right? So, then we got to produce children. Well, you think, well, how could I, knowing what I am, make love or have sex with a woman that is a big harlot from Lithgow? Right? Well, it's a funny thing. But I was the horniest kid of all time, right? I always had it up. I'd go to bed at night, I couldn't get rid of it, so I may as well root it. That's how I thought of it. There was no love involved, never kissed it. Right? She said, kiss me. I said, fuck off. I talked to her like she's a dog. I mean, I was an arsehole, believe me, because I hated her. Yet I could still make love, well, that's not the right word. I could still use it for her. And she loved it, right? She loved being treated rough. And the more I abused her, the more she loved it. I mean, I thought I'm going insane here. Right? All I wanted was a nice woman to marry. Right? Not for me, I couldn't get that. So that first one produced the children, which gives us the key to the Great Pyramid, which produced the measurements, which gives us the 31101 when I measured the internal of the pyramid, which is a Julian day I'm born on. Hello. Okay, so it goes on, and I could talk for days underwater about this, how it all fits together. So we've had comments of people saying these numbers are so fantastic, it cannot be a mistake. I mean, you was reading me things this morning about a woman had a dream when she's 6 years old or some bloody stupid.
Oh yeah, prophetic vision. You know, it was for a child. It was really detailed.
I don't believe first off it's a
and she must have been well.
It's a Jew.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The Jews put out this information. When I was a child, talking as if as a Christian baby, right, of a dream, prophetic dream, that there's a guy going to come along, he's going to be the king, and he's going to say he's God, but don't believe it. Like I'm saying, hello, I'm saying I'm God. I don't give a fuck whether you believe it or not. Right? It's not an election. Right? And that's the stupidity of the Bible, because there is things in that. Right? There's going to be someone saying it's Christ. Don't look for him here in the desert. Don't. Right? Don't.
The many false Christs.
Many false Christs. They're all going to say that.
They're all around.
There's only one Pope that says, and in the first time in all of history of the church, it's him. Take his word for it. Don't take my word for it. Right? So anyhow, yesterday I was trying to download movies to watch at night. Sherlock Holmes, right? They always have a good story. And some of them very cleverly worked out. This Arthur Conan Doyle was a smart fellow, right? For those who don't know, he was the man who wrote the Sherlock Holmes stories.
Arthur Conan Doyle.
Conan Doyle. Now, Agatha Christie is another one, very prophetic writer. Prolific writer, I should say. And she has some wonderful stories too, but she was a chemist. And always people die of cyanide, right? Well, the Jews tried to kill me with cyanide, it didn't work.
It didn't work.
So I'm trying to download these things so we can sort of lay back at night and watch these things for an hour or so, and relax after a day of doing what we do. And because the damn thing didn't work. The one I was watching was how demons are in these magicians.
The magicians, yes.
Some of the things they do is spectacular. Right? There's no doubt about it. No trickery involved. They're doing it before witnesses. They're doing it in the street, right? And the camera goes in and looks at these eyes, and they're like bloody reptiles, right? So I'll be damned, right? So certainly demons exist, and they do dominate certain people. People sell their soul to the devil like they do in Hollywood, right? That's true. That's what happens. When you sell your soul to the devil will enter into you, and many demons will be in you and give you great talents to make lots of money. Step aside and they'll kill you. Right? And
then fulfill all of the lusts of their flesh.
That's right.
It's the demonic lust within that has to be satisfied.
That's right. So I was trying to download, there's 7 in a series, and I put them on this downloader from YouTube. Didn't work, right? So I thought, well, I'll search the downloads. And which I knew, if they're not in where they've been assigned to go, because you pick a folder that you've created for it to go to, or it'll automatically go to, in my case, it's C. Brian videos, right? So I checked there, no, not there either. So I couldn't get that damn thing to work. I got rid of it, downloaded it again, still wouldn't work. So finally I got the bloody gave up on it. So I thought, well, I'll just search the downloads. And the downloads pop up, and there are 7 different downloads, right? And when I open them up to see what they are, each of them had between 3 and 7 or 2 or 4 of these bitmaps. So I opened the bitmaps up, and they are the most unbelievable thing that was above my understanding. Right? They're all to do with the number 3168. Now, they measure the pyramid, they measure the Earth, they measure the moon's orbit, they measure the sun, they measure the Earth orbit 4 times a year, the angle of, from astronomy's point of view, the angle that is the apparent angle of the size of the moon 4 times a year is 3.168 degrees of arc. It goes on and on and on. These things I never thought of. Right? They measure it in the Roman, it's called a palm. Like, hello, what the hell's that? Well, that's the width of the hand, right, across here.
Yes.
Right? So they come up with an average for that. So X amount of palms means so many Roman feet, and so many Roman feet in a Roman mile, and they measure the whole Earth in all these different numbers, the pyramid and the moon and the sun and everything else, in these measurements, all come out with 3168. Volumes, squares, areas, you name it. Right? Distances, arc of time through space, size of the moon, apparent size of this at 3 times or 4 times a year, something like that. So that's bloody amazing. Then they do it in the Greek measurements. Right? The stadia, the bloody foot, the Greek hand, the Greek this and Greek something else. I didn't even know these numbers existed. Sure enough, what do? They reveal all the same 3168, 3168, 316, hundreds and thousands of times.
Lord Jesus
Christ. And that's what I'm saying to you, that the devil knows who I am, and it used every conceivable demonic force. And that's why I say to some people that if you're under attack, smile. Because they are identifying you as being a saint. So just do what I did when I was a youngster. Say, give it your best shot, Satan. And it did, I tell you. Right? Well, where did these drawings come from? Now I'm going to make a movie about them. I've tried screen capturing, and the screen capture wouldn't work.
This is our eternal struggle.
It's endless. So what it is with the computer, there's always a back door. Like, you've got to pay for your internet connection. But the CIA and ASIO and MI6 and Mossad, they don't pay for their internet connection. They go straight through your computer. They can beam in from a satellite and look what you're doing right now. And if it's got a webcam on it, they're looking at your face. They can see the screen, what you're doing, everything. In fact, we have had an experience with a guy who worked for the Australian Army that could go into the computer, see what you're doing,
he just took it over. He repaired it.
Repaired your computer.
And he admired the wallpaper. At that time, I had the flaming Yahweh on it. And it was. I'll see if I can find the wallpaper again. But yeah, so I love your wallpaper. He was in Melbourne.
Now, this is a fellow that did say that of how many men that he had trained in the computer business went to Iraq and how many didn't come back. Yeah,
well, he was one that came back. I think the platoon size was 12. He came back.
He came back, and others didn't.
Yeah, others didn't. Yeah.
So they killed him.
And
who killed him? This is the point.
Yes. Well, it's
not bloody Saddam Hussein.
No, it's
too
now
stupid, right?
It's now known that
he kills them.
Yeah, snipers set up to take out the American troops and the foreign troops.
That's right. So they'll say, well, there's that guy, here's his photograph. You stand up in the hills there, you're a sniper. You're like an American or a Mossad probably, or an Australian. So as soon as that guy walks out, they put a bullet in you.
Now, he was one who was trying to make his way to us. He had information about what's happening in Australia, the underground bases.
Well, mentioning Australia, I met this fellow years ago. He became a good friend of mine. I did some work with him. And he was from Denmark. A very, very likeable fellow. Morgan, his name was. And he'd go by the name Morgan Small Organ. So he go to quote someone somewhere, and he could talk to the people he's doing the quote for, and he says, "Oh, call me up, ask for Morgan Smallhawken." He got an amazing amount of work because he's such a likable fellow, and he always overcharged, of course. But he said to me, he went to a party one night and had a good friend of his there, and his sons were working for Asia. And these sons were talking with the father, and he's listening in, right? And they're pissed. And he was telling them what's under the new Capitol building in Australia, right?
Yes.
Said all of the computers that you ever want to imagine to run the world is underneath the Australian Capital Territory Parliament House.
Yeah.
So that's why they built it. Cost huge amount of money. So that's what there is. Now I had a similar experience by going to the Commonwealth Bank, where this fellow I was doing some work for, and he had like 600 or so outstanding jobs that his crew of 20 odd weren't smart enough to fix. So he offered me the job to fix them at $35 an hour, right? Which was good money in those days. He never did pay me, the bastard. That's the guy that charged me with the fraud.
Oh, that...
I mentioned that in a moment.
Right.
So we go into this building, there's the Commonwealth Bank, which was the Australian bank originally for the people of Australia, which was taken over by Chase
Manhattan was the...
We go down into the basement of this place, and we go out the elevator, and there's this huge computer system with 3 soldiers standing in front of it and 2-inch plate glass behind it, right? And I'm walking through, and I'm looking at this because this idiot just walked straight past. We had to have special permits to go down there. And he got me one because he was a permit holder. So we go down to fix something down the hall, right? However, as I go past, I said, "What the hell is that?" He said, "Oh, that's the computers that can run the world." That was then. We're talking 1997. 87.
87, yeah, because it was...
87.
Let me think, it was 1980, might have been 1981, when I worked for our family business, and I was in Sydney all of the time. I was the sales force, so... And we built special equipment out of sheet metal. For the banks, government departments. Anyway...
So this guy, right, he ends up owing me... what he was doing, he would... in those days, there was all sorts of rip-offs going on. If you were in business and you weren't in a rip-off, there's something wrong with it. And they called it the bottom of the harbour scheme when it was finally exposed. And the idea was that Sydney Harbour, of course, if you wanted to hide something and throw it in the harbour, that was the idea of it. Well, you get an accountant to hide your books. And so what he was doing, we agreed on a price to do something like $80,000 worth of work. And I had accomplished most of it, and he was paying me in cash, right? Because he had got a kickback from the contract people for the Telstra, which is the telephone people, which is also government. And he got $250,000 of black money, as they called it, that he had to get rid of. Right? He couldn't declare it, so he was having this built and that built, and he was paying me cash, right? But in order to cover his ass, he had a check, and he'd pencil in this guy's Maxwell in pencil. And he'd have it in his checkbook. This is what I paid you, right? So he'd give me $3,500 in cash. Right? I'd go to or he'd give me a check, and I'd go to a bank, and the bank would cash it, and no questions asked. Wouldn't go through the books, no deposits, nothing. Just cash in and out. Right? Then I'd tear it up. He also had it set up through a club, a sailing club, which is on Botany Bay. And I'd go and ask for Julian, the manager, and he'd give me I'd have a piece of paper, and he'd just give me the cash. When it came to the final payment, I tried to hunt him down, but he was heading for Europe, right? And I caught up with him in his office just before he was going to leave for the airport. So I said, "I want to get paid up." Well, he said, "All right." So he starts to write out a cheque for $4,050. So he slides it across, and he looks as he's writing it out. I said to him, "You're 20 grand short." "Oh no," he said, If you go to the police, who'd believe, you or me? A fine, upstanding businessman or a counterfeiter? Right? So yeah, I said, well, if I go to my uncle, who's the head of the taxation department, who'd he believe? He'd go through your company like a bag of salt. So he went all white and he had the cheque signed and was made out to my wife. No, it was made out to me. I said, don't make it out to me. I said, because I've got to pay $11,000 I owed to my sister-in-law through my wife. I said, and I was a bankrupt, right? Because make it out to my wife. So he crosses my name out with B Marshall, and he puts in P Marshall, right? Then he said, fill it out, slid it across the table and he said, fill it out for what I owe you. So I put a 2 in front of the 4, it was 24,050, and I wrote out 24,050 in my handwriting. I took it to the bank next day, which is my birthday. I think I was 44 or 45 years old. 45. And I cashed it. I had the bank make out a cheque for my sister-in-law, 11,000. Another cheque made out for timber and all those kind of things that I had to buy for the construction I was doing for him. And ended up with a very little amount of money left. But $3,500 left after I paid all the wages and everything else. So 3 months later, he'd come back from Europe and he told his partner, who was an Irishman, not too bright, he had gone through the books and found there was $20,000 short. So when his partner came back from overseas, he sat down with him and he said, oh, that Marshall, he's filled out the cheque for him. So they had to charge me with fraud. Now, first off, the cheque wasn't mine. Right? I did fill it out under him, he told me to. He had signed it, and it was made out to my wife, so it wasn't got to do with me. Right? So, I get charged. Turns out, from the June the 17th, 2 BC, my birth as Jesus, to January the 11th, 1944, there is 24,050 lunations of the moon. Right? It goes on from there. There's several other miracles that also occurred at the same time. But I won't go into that one time.
Well, that's at the Scrib site as well with the scanned, the book you prepared for reports in 1997.
Yeah. Well, just one other thing then. He was supposed to pay the rental for the tools. And he let that go. And of course, you fill out a cheque and give it to the rental company. And when you finish with the tools, he was going to go in there and pay it and of course, tear up my cheque. That's it. He didn't do that. So my cheque bounced. That is a criminal offence in Australia. So I have to go back into the company as Coombs Hire.
Coates
Hire. Okay. Now, this goes into a very funny stage too. The property where Coates Hire was owned by my uncle Robert Golightly, and I played there as a kid. Now, when you consider the size of Sydney, 5 million people, right, to have one property owned by my uncle, who should have been the king, incidentally, and I played there as a kid, and this is where I go in to pay off the debt that this cheque had bounced. And I paid the cheque off, and it was $313.40, which is the 3134 is the coming divine judgment of Christ. There was an NSF on it for $6.50. I had the two together because I had to pay that too, and it is 3069 or something like that, 3068, which is the Lord Yahweh. So if you're having demons attack you out there, folks, don't worry about it. Take it as a compliment. Sit back and enjoy the ride and observe what they do to you. And when they attack you, just cast them out in my name. Use the 3 names. Brian Leonard, God, Lord Jesus Christ, and Yahweh, the Creator.
Jesus, Yahweh, Brian.
Use them all, and it'll work. It'll save you a lot of grief because demons cannot be around that name. So this is the kind of things I've had to put up with. Now, these 22 or 3 drawings that were downloaded into my computer, I have no idea where they come from. They just appeared there.
I tried to do a search on the web last night to see if I came up with a site with none. There are other Christian sites and the 3168
the mathematics of this is above human ability. Right? To even think of doing it is one thing, and then to have the math to do it. And I'm pretty well onto the 3168 number, and it left me. This is definitely angelic. So I'll do a video of it and screen capture if I can. I prepared to do it last night, and of course everything stuffs up on the computer, so I give up on that. The only way I can get something onto to be recorded is to actually put a camera on the screen. That's only been available for the last few years. Before that, it would all flicker and all sorts of things that you couldn't take pictures. But now we can do it because of the solid state type of arrangement that the screens are made from. So yeah, so that's apart from that, it's been quiet.
Now, I had thought that go through the times from the first time that you remember where something has tried to kill you, not knowingly that it's
including family members.
yeah. From the beginning, babe, just list all of the times that you should have been out again.
Well, as a baby, the car I was in apparently was forced off the road and rolled, and I ended up on the floor. The next time, a similar car was a drunk that ran his car up onto a sort of an embankment and then come down, and my father narrowly missed it. That's the second time, and again I was still a youngster. My cousin and brother had a fire in the back of it, right? And I reached over and grabbed this sort of grate that was made of cast iron. And I picked it up, and it was just on the being hot. I was cooking potatoes or something like that. Maybe that's why I like potatoes.
He loves potatoes.
And I lifted it up and I let it go, and then it fell down.
Yeah.
And my hand was burnt, but it didn't feel it.
Right.
Because my mother was freaking out. Right, so that's another thing that happened. Another time, as I got older, I was attacked by 17 youths.
17.
And that's why I got the scar over my right here.
Right. Yes.
Here. They hit me with a Coke bottle.
Really? Wow.
And across the road was a police station.
Yes.
So I've jumped ahead a few years now, I was about 16. And they wanted to go around the back because they didn't want the cops to see the fight going on between me and this big guy that hit me with a bottle.
Right.
So I said, all right. So I beat them all.
Good morning, Joel.
I was heading in all directions, but they also going to kick the shit out of me, right? Yes. I did go down, but I come up again, and that's it. And then I took about four of them out, and then they started to scatter.
Now, what was that fight over?
The girl. Was walking along going to a theatre, and someone made a wisecrack about her as I'm walking past her, so I said, tell him to shut his mouth. Right? Well, he had a big brother.
A big brother, right.
18, 19, 20 year old, right?
Yes.
So all these thugs. In those days, a lot of thugs around. I mean, you got to look back, and Sydney was a place of rampant crime. The biggest criminals, of course, were the police. Right? So that's why they didn't want to get was in front of the police station, across the road. So we walked around the back, and they got stuck into me. So they were right, here we go. So when I get angry, I get into this mode of angelic strength.
Yes.
And I'm like a machine. So I've never lost a fight in my life. I've had many of them. But always righteous fights.
That righteous anger that
Righteous
everybody
anger.
refers to Jesus when you overturned the tables in the temple. That was a righteous anger that rose up. And
So, yeah, there's been several incidences that just sort of escaped my mind because there's been so many of them.
Right, now what about the car? I had
there's a demonic spirit it is in all people, with few exceptions. And you can walk into a crowded room and there's a demonic body there. A family, like your family and my family, they have demonic possession and they act together. And one won't know what it's like saying the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. That's the same thing. You can have 20 members of a family and they will be coordinated by a demonic force and they don't know it individually. And well, I've experienced that several times. I was driving on a car one time up to Lithgow, and it was a sports car. Now it had ball tyres on the back and I couldn't afford to put tyres on it. My father allowed his son to drive around the car that had ball tyres on the back, driving up the mountains at night. So as I'm coming down, all of a sudden there's a fog. And then there's a set of lights coming straight at me. So I tried to get out of the way and the car slid around and it hit so perfectly on the driver's side. On either side of the door, you know how where the door joins in the front to the front mudguard and the back, right? Well, this was a sports car. And the headlights had hit exactly dead centre, 4 inches either side of the crack of the doors.
Right.
Extraordinary. Right? It hit so hard it bent the car like a banana. I was on the driver's side, which is in Australia, the right-hand side, same as England. And I was moved out of that seat over to the other side, which under normal circumstances, because it was an Austin Healey, there's a big gearbox in the centre, you cannot get across to the other side. The only way to get in the other side of the seat is to get out the car and walk around and get in the other side. Because there's no way of getting your legs across because the gearbox and everything is so hard up against the dashboard. Right? So it's a very, very poorly designed car. It looked nice, but it was very poorly designed. I ended up in the left side. I was crushed sideways. Right? So, and that's where this scar came from.
Right.
So I ended up in hospital, and because I was hit sideways, I was sort of, all this part of my body was been crushed, and I'd been shoulders up like that, and I couldn't get my arms down. So I'm laying in the hospital, which is bad enough. My parents didn't even come see me. This is son almost killed in a car accident.
Yes.
Right, so far as their perspective, couldn't be careless. This nurse walks in, and she grabs my arm. She said, "Put your arms down beside your side." I said, "I can't move them." I said, "I'm frozen in pain." Right? So she grabbed my arms and she started to force them down.
Right.
And the agony, I just let out a scream, and this old guy in the next bed,
Right.
he said, "Fuck off, you bitches." Still. That's what nurse did, right?
Yes.
So I survived that. So on it goes. Truck crashing in Canada. Same thing, they watered down the road. What happens? I go sliding down the hill. What happens in a big truck, logging truck, if you have what is called a jake brake, which works off the engine. And that's why when you drive into town, you may have noticed, truckies don't use your jake brake in the city, right, in town areas. Because when it ease off, you go real loud. Right? So when you're driving a logging truck, you've got your jake brake on. Right? You don't want to use your ordinary brakes because they get hot and they're expensive. So you use the engine sleeve up. So this time I go around down this hill, never been on the road before. Next thing it's sliding out of control. And the jake brake stalled the engine because the wheel's locked up. Right? So the idea is if you've got traction on the road, the wheel's turning. If the jake brake is on and hits ice, the wheels stop because the engine's a brake. And it stopped the engine dead. So I knocked it out of gear, started the engine again. Next thing I'm doing 60 miles an hour. And I see two trees at the end of this steep incline. And I see lights coming around the corner. That's all I've seen, the lights. Didn't know whether they were moving or not. Turns out they weren't moving. It was my truck that was in front of me, my driver, another truck. And he'd spun out on the corner.
Marshall logging down the side.
Marshall logging, right? So as I'm going down the hill, I thought, well, there's this lights, and I'm getting faster and faster, and I throw it out of gear, trying to get it back into control, and you can hardly steer it because there was so much ice on the road. They call it blaze ice because it's been wetted down. Anyhow, coming down this hill, I thought, well, two little trees there. I'll just see if I manoeuvre between the two trees into the ditch, and I can get pulled out by the loaded logging truck coming around the corner. You've got chains on, right? Pull me out. Well, turns out the two little trees that I saw were about 3 or 4 feet high, were the tops of big trees, about 60 feet high, 70 feet high, on the side of this bloody mountain. So as I'm sailing off, there's my truck on the right-hand side, spun around, and martial locking on the side of it. And I thought, shit. I said, well, God, here I come. So the truck turned over on the side and hit a stand of trees. The tree would have been at least half a metre thick at the top of it where I was going in, say 60 feet up or so on the side of this mountain. And it tore the top of the truck off. And it was just a white light. You know, people going to the white light, it was like that. Cold as that. Next thing, I'm in heaven.
Bodily.
Finally, I thought, oh, God.
Bodily.
So the angels tell me, oh, no, you're not. You've got to get back again. You're Christ, right? Oh, shit. Right? Only you can do it, was their words. Next thing, I'm being carried by angels, and I'm looking down 400 or so metres away is my truck suspended in midair. The roof is gone, the trailer on the back of it is gone. My driver is kneeling on the ice in the headlights, praying. He thought I was dead. And my truck was beside his truck, but down about 10 feet into the darkness, right? So he didn't know it was there, he couldn't see it. And I'm sat on top of the truck, and we start to descend into the valley, this ravine. And I thought, oh shit. Right? Oh shit moment. So I'm waiting for the impact, right? Because we're going down 185 feet. So this is 50 metres or more. So as it's getting, all I know is I'm feeling a free fall because I'm flying planes, right? It's like having if you're flying a plane, you put the stick forward, you go into free fall. You can feel you're sitting, lift up off the seat, anti-gravity, so to speak. And I could feel that. And then it started to go back into the gravity stage as if it was bottoming out, and then it touched down on the ice, because in Canada, northern Canada, it's permafrost all year round. Right? And I'm sliding then, accelerating, I'm waiting for the impact, and then just slowly slid to a stop. So the next thing I reach forward with my balls, see if they're still there. Feel my arms and blah, blah. I said, bloody, I'm still alive. Amazing. I've forgotten what had just happened. Right? All too quick. So as I'm sitting there scratching my head, I said, what the hell happened there? I'm expecting an impact. You come down that distance. Right? The stars above me because there's no roof on the bloody truck anymore. The next thing, this 7-ton trailer comes crashing down beside me, some 30 feet away, crashing into the bush. Later on, when I looked at it, it hit the ground so hard it bent the drawbar, which is a roughly 8-inch by 10-inch drawbar of steel, tubing. It bent it up like a press line. Must have just nosed it. It should have been on top of the truck. The whole point. So it had been dislodged when I hit the trees, and the top of the vehicle was ripped off. And of course, this thing went spiralling into space, I guess. And it didn't come back down to the ground until I was sitting there wondering what the hell happened. Right? And then kabunk. And of course, being permafrost, it hits the ground and you can feel a vibration. Right? So I thought, shit. So I decided I'd then get out the truck. I pushed what was left of the door open and stepped directly down onto the snow or ice. Right? There was no front wheels. The axle was gone. The engine had hit the ground so hard that it knocked the front axle off, and it was sitting on the ice.
The lights were on.
And the lights of the truck were still on. An impossibility. Everything else was knackered. Right? Never did find the front axle. Right? It bounced off into the bush and down the valley somewhere. But it was still there. So I walked around the front and looked at the lights going. shaking my head. I thought the first thing I think of these should have been smashed to bits, right? But the lights are still on. Can't happen, right? But it did. Then I felt a trickle of something warm running down my face from my forehead. I put my fingers up and I felt it was a sliver of glass, and I pulled it out. And it was about 3/4 of an inch long, covered in blood, and it was sparkling in the lights of the truck. And I thought, dawn of Jesus. I flicked it away.
Now that was 1978, and your age on that day.
I was Holy Ghost plus the life of Jesus.
Yes.
So
now the life
1, 2,
of
3,
Jesus.
4, 5 days.
That's the life of Jesus.
And 108.
108
is how many times the word ghost is
ghost.
found.
Yeah.
And because that's the message.
Yes.
I'm the Holy Ghost of Jesus.
Yeah.
Huh? So I looked up at the sky. And
You
I
think
said,
they could just write you a letter, don't you, and mail it from the heavenly realm?
I mean, I've had angels talk to me under various circumstances, like marry that one. What? Marry that one.
Yeah.
Like, that's the last thing. I just got off the chain with bloody married to the first wife. I didn't want to marry a second one. That's the last thing I wanted. You know?
Now, what do you say to Christians? Oh, Jesus doesn't marry; he's a virgin, and all the rest of it. And
I don't give a damn what they think. It's not an election.
but you were married as Jesus. You were married.
Twice.
Yes. Mary Magdalene,
Mary
who could
Magdalene.
not.
Which had the 7 devils driven out. What happens when she reincarnates? She comes back with the 7 demons, right? Plus 7 times 7 as many. So for every demon she comes back with, there's 7 times, which are worse than the first.
Worse than the first, and that is the parable.
So she ended up with, what, 54 bloody demons or something?
56.
56.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, did she ever fulfill that lying bastard, right? But again, if it hadn't been for her offspring would not have lined up in 1 Chronicles 5:13, because her age when she gave birth was 32.75 years. Her daughter was born on the 20th of December 1979. My youngest daughter, born in 1977 on November the 2nd. When you work out the difference in time, it's 777 days. Hello, there's your Holy Spirit number, because the last city, the golden city, the heavenly city, is the 777th in the book of Revelation. Right? But you work it out as years, it's 2.127 years, and that number in Hebrew is Zia, 2127. It's also Ezekiel 21:27. He will overturn.
Yeah.
Right? The overturn number is the age Michelle was on the date of the eclipse of 2012 on November the 14th, was Prince Charles's birthday. Which was the same date in 1948 when I climbed over a fence to rescue a little boy where his mother had been electrocuted by my stepfather's stupidity of wiring up a vacuum cleaner, and I told him when he was wiring it up it was wrong, and he told me to shut up. Right? He put the red hot wire on the frame. And when she touched the bloody vacuum cleaner and touched the tap, it killed her. Right? And that's another reason why the bastard was so cruel to me, right?
Yes.
Because I was out thinking him as a 4-year-old. When he was a man, I'd learned about electricity because my brother wanted to be an electrician. He's a genius, right? He'd already learned all these things and told me what all these wires were, how it all went together. Right? And I told my stepfather, I said, red wire is not supposed to be a green wire. Right? I'm 4.848 years old, which is the height of the pyramid, with the capstone in place on that day, as Charles was being born on the other side of the world.
And that's the first time you heard the angel speaking,
Yes,
giving you
right.
specific
Long
instructions.
dialogue. It was a long dialogue.
Yeah. And you just thought it was normal that everybody...
Yeah, I thought everybody heard voices. Who cares? Never even thought about it.
Now, because we have a small amount of time left, just...
I'm not singing.
No, well, we'll go out with Heiko. There's plenty of time to listen to Heiko now, and we'll comfortably finish. And then you can talk about the cyanide attempt tomorrow when we open the show. All right, that's it.
Sieg Heil!
Let me get this played.
Liberate Germany right now.
Oh, yeah.
You know they're telling the kindergarten children with little booklets to
It's
take home to their
disgusting.
parents how to masturbate them?
Yeah,
If that ain't Jewish, I don't know what it is.
yeah. All things
It's a
pornography.
fact. We were there. We seen it.
Yes, yeah, well, I know.
I know.
Told us we were there in Germany
It's
with
been 3
Anna
years in
when
the-
she
in the
told
making.
us that this
And
is what's
also
going
they're
on.
coming up with laws in Germany where they make child pornography okay. Child molestation's
All
okay?
Jewish, everything.
Everything's Jewish.
Right. Say
They're all
goodbye.
dead meat.
With that, you say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Just said to me, he will send the sun. Who gonna reign on earth as the righteous king? Just said to me, the name of this man. His name is Jesus Christ, he will come back again. So I said to John, I love you, my father. I want to stay with you forever. And I promised John, I killed the devil within myself. Just a few days later, breaks my last chain. And it took not a long time until I found it on the World Wide Web. A man called Mr. Marshall. And I knew just after watching him for a little while. Christ is back. Christ is back on earth. 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 So turn your back on the devil, man. Who is hurting I and I? Cause together with the devil, man. Oh, with the devil, man, the sun will never shine here. And it took not a long time until I found it on the World Wide Web. A man called Mr. Marshall. And I knew just after watching him for a little while. Christ is back. Christ is back on earth. Christ is back. Christ is back on earth. Christ is back. Christ is back on earth. Christ is back.